Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for Passengers. So Passengers is the new film directed by Morten Tyldum, director of The Imitation Game, and it revolves around the story of two passengers on side of a spacecraft that is said to be going to a planet in 90 years. They're left alive, so they realize that they won't necessarily have too much of a life. So while this is going on, the ship seems to be having these malfunctions, all these weird things are going on, and that's really what Passengers revolves around. So Morten Tyldum is definitely a director I've been looking for, because after The Imitation Game, I knew that this guy was destined for greatness. The Imitation Game is a phenomenal drama of revolving around, Alan Turing, the creator of really the first computer, and it was a very, very well done drama, and that's why I was very excited for Passengers. The first trailer came out, which was good, not great, and then as they went on, the marketing became less and less, and I started not to become too excited for Passengers. So I went in not expecting to like this movie, and I have to say that this movie was actually alright. I don't think I can say that it's a good movie, but I can definitely say that I had a good time watching Passengers. It's an entertaining movie. It's fun to watch. There's not really much there. It doesn't have too much substance, but it's a fun movie to watch. You can find entertainment in it, especially for the last 45 minutes. So getting into it, I do have to say a huge issue with it is that Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence do not seem interested in what they're doing at all. They really didn't put their all into their performances. They just sort of walked around. They kind of overacted at points. They kind of underacted at points. They just really didn't seem interested in what they were doing, and you didn't really get anything behind them. You also had some very, very poor editing that had some scenes that should have taken probably a minute that went on for 3 to 5, and then parts that should have, only taken a small amount that went on for too long. This was definitely a very poorly edited movie. Too many parts are just, they eventually get tiring because you're just watching the same thing happening. It sort of feels like it's repeating itself and not really moving along with the plot, and that can go on for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And then there's these things that are supposed to be huge and emotionally impactful that just aren't, because you don't care about what's going on, because you don't have anything behind it. And really, Passengers, I do believe, could have had, if it had a much better editor, I think that this movie could have reached up into the good section. I could have opened this review by saying that it was a good movie if maybe the editing was just fixed a little bit. Also, between Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, because they're not interested, nothing really has weight. Nothing really feels important, because the characters, the two central people that you're supposed to be caring about, don't have anything with them. They're just sort of there, and they aren't really doing anything. And that was definitely very annoying. Also, they had practically no chemistry together. They had a little bit, and you got to see that in a few scenes, but they're supposed to be romantic interests, and it doesn't work because they just don't really have chemistry. They don't work together. Also, I do think that if maybe this movie was seen from the perspective of Aurora, Jennifer Lawrence's character, I think that this movie would be much, much better. And why is that? Because Chris Pratt is given practically no development. Aurora is given a full backstory. You know everything about her, how she grew up, what she wanted to do before she had to wake up, all this sort of stuff. But with Chris Pratt, you don't get much more than a certain scene where he's going out into space. And that's all you really get from him. Besides that, you don't know anything about him. You know that his name is Jim, and that's practically it. And this was supposed to be our main leading protagonist, and it just didn't work. He just didn't have the charisma, and I don't think that that's his fault, because Chris Pratt is a very charismatic guy. You can just look at Guardians of the Galaxy and see that. I think it's because he had nothing to work with here. There's also a character that comes in at one point of the movie that feels completely and totally unnecessary. Not unnecessary, he advances the plot, but it feels like he's only there to advance the plot. He comes, he does something for the two characters, and then he just goes away. And that was quite annoying. However, I do have to say that I think that this movie had some very well done moments. There's, again, going back to Chris Pratt's scene, there's a scene where he's going out into space and just sort of floating, it's just him, and he just sort of sheds a singular tear, and that really, really worked. That added a lot to him just in that one brief moment. And you get these moments that work out really, really well, where characters are trying to say something to another character and it doesn't come out the right way, and then the character ends up mad, or just some stuff like that were very, very well well done, and I could tell Morton Tildum wanted to make a good movie. I think that it was just the editing and the actors that made it so that he couldn't do that. So with this grade, I honestly would give an 8 out of 10 to the directing because Morton Tildum did a great job, and I still have a lot of hope for this guy, but because of the other aspects, I have to give Passengers a 5.75 out of 10. Again, not a bad movie, almost a good one, but it didn't quite get to there. And all in all, I gotta say that Passengers was quite a bit of a letdown. Alright, that concludes my review for Passengers. What did you think of this movie? Comment in the comment section below. I am Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.